Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your busy schedules to spend, 2.5 days with us. We know with everything going on, that's a precious amount of time, and I can't say thank you enough for doing it. We've got a huge group this year. We have over 1,600 participants, up from 1,400 last year. We have a software showcase many of you have seen that has over 50 products in it. And we're going to have a great party tonight, assuming that Amazon doesn't acquire the facility and start using it as a logistics location between now and 8 o'clock, which is not that likely. Look, there's a lot of change happening now, and we all need to learn to see around the corner. So the original concept of one step ahead was that it's our obligation as an organization, and frankly, as we talk today as an industry, to stay one step ahead of you in terms of how we serve you, and to stay one step ahead of your organization in terms of what their needs are around data and analytics. It enables us to see around the corner, and ultimately our goal is to help figure out ways to drive growth for your business. So there are two themes for the conference that you're going to hear about throughout it, right? One is one step ahead, the concept that, hey, we got to provide you things that are going to keep you one step ahead. And the other is the concept of disruption. We live in it. We experience it. We're going to need to create it in our own organizations and the industry in order for us to create the kind of opportunity and impact I think that exists. Whether it's the agenda for the country that is constantly shifting, the economy, tariffs, trade wars, but it's constant motion, right? And all this is happening in the context of rapid technology progress, profoundly accelerated rates of disruptions affecting every industry in the United States, and especially ours. There's probably few industries today that are in the eye of the storm of disruption. So today I'm going to talk about what all that means, help understand the disruption, share my thoughts on where we as an industry need to evolve, and then talk a little bit about IRI and our continuing quest to be a disruptor. So let's talk about disruption on steroids. If you look at the top 10 market cap companies today, only one of them was on the list 10 years ago. 5 years ago, it was 3. 5 years ago, online sales accounted for 6% of all retail in the US. Last year was 13%. I don't think anybody anticipated that level of pace of change in e-commerce and consumer behavior. And then we have Amazon. Let me ask a question. How many of you out there are concerned about the impact that Amazon's having on your business? Wow, you're a pretty confident group. How many of you actually bought something on Amazon in the last month? All right, so the concern is not impacting your personal preferences, which I think is consistent with the selfish nature of the human philosophy and Freud, I think, all in our own self-interest. But anyway, it's even in the last year, right, the disruption that Amazon created in our industry has been extraordinary. When they bought Whole Foods, that set off a bomb in our industry. And you can see it in the pace and maneuvers of a lot of the companies around it. Amazon stock was up $14 billion the day of the deal. They paid $14 billion for Whole Foods, so effectively they bought the company for free, which would be a great deal if we could pull that off. Stan, maybe we and I can pull one of those off someday. While the combined market cap of the biggest 6 retailers dropped by $12 billion. Last year Amazon represented 80% of online sales growth. Think about that, 80% of all the growth in online retail sales in our country was one organization. The manufacturing side has an equally complex world to live in. Look, it's almost impossible for the big players to define growth. It's averaging less than 1%. Growth actually slowed for mid-sized players as well. Private label continues to be a challenge. Costco aspires to increase private label from 25% to 37%. Millennials and Generation X, lots of research that says they don't have the same brand affiliation of past generations. And all that's leading to is last year was a record level for M&A in the CPG space. So that's the context, right? Now we're also seeing at the same time, continued investment in big data, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. Big data, AI, disruption, transformation. We talk about big, successful companies. We're talking about Amazon, Facebook, and Google, which combined have a $2 trillion market cap. So we thought it was worth looking at these behemoths so we can understand what they're doing and maybe we can learn from them. So let's start with what they have in common. Theme one, I believe, is these are organizations that are highly customer-centric. Highly customer-centric, right? With simple ideas. So Facebook built a social ecosystem that started as a simple concept with one person and got to 2 billion that you could say people will value connecting in this disconnected world. Amazon's business model was simple. Low prices, easy access, speed. Google was the simplicity of search. And if you could look at all of them, my view is that they provide some new and significant value to consumers, and that all the complexity that I'll talk about is behind the scenes, right? The customer experience is simple. The complexity is behind the scenes. So that's theme one, customer-centric. Theme two, they move extremely fast and they make big bets. Speed. Speed is a weapon. So let me start with an Amazon story. How many of you have read Jeff Bezos' annual letter? Wow, that's not that many. He writes one. No, it was a couple months ago I came across this. The annual report for Amazon is a 4-page letter that Jeff Bezos writes. The 4-page letter he wrote in 1997, and the proxy. That's it. That's it. And when I read this letter, I was taken by the opening sentence. It was after a question by an employee, what does day 2 look like? And here, quote unquote, is the comment, right? I've been reminding people that it's day 1 for a number of decades. I work in a building named Day 1, and I moved buildings, I took the name with me. I spend time thinking about this topic. Day 2 is stasis, followed by irrelevance, followed by excruciating, painful decline, followed by death. This is the low point in the speech, by the way. I just wanted to point that out. So those are Springsteen fans. This is kind of the Meet Top Jode moment. But I think it's important because it struck me as a concept, right? That the companies they operate their business as though they're at the beginning of the journey all the time. One component he talks about ensuring day 1 never comes is the concept of high-velocity decision-making. High-velocity decision-making. He makes the case in 2 ways, which I also thought was quite profound. But it's an interesting way to run a company. The first step in high-velocity decision-making is to come to the realization that most decisions are reversible. They are a two-way door. So now if you think about the companies that we work with, right, they don't think about it in that way, right? The Amazon way is if you're not worried about the permanent nature of a decision, you can be more comfortable making them because you know you can reverse them. And if you think about our organizations and how most companies work, we study a problem. We work on it for 6 months. We do a business case. We do another business case. 3 other divisions try and get in the way, but we'll leave that aside. We present the business case. We make a decision, we launch it, and then we monitor it, and then we either think it was good or bad sometime 18 months later. But if you operate in a mindset that decisions are reversible, then you're not as panicked about these decisions. All of a sudden, it doesn't take 9 months to make a decision. You can make it in 2 weeks. And that gets to his other view that most decisions can be made with 70% information. He describes all that in his letter, which I thought was very powerful. Then the question is, think about our life together in this industry. What is the comfort level of quality of information that you expect to have in our industry before you make decisions? I'm just thinking like 99.8 is my lower threshold before I get a phone call, okay? Actually, Mike Rosenthal runs operations. Michael Rosenthal, he's right there. If your data's at 99.7, you just call him. He will sort it out. If it's at 92, he calls me. So that's theme 2. They move fast, high quality decision making. Theme 3 is they compete and they collaborate. They see the boundaries of their company differently than traditional boundaries. They're comfortable with competition. It used to be that, these companies lived in a little place. Google Search, Amazon Commerce, Facebook Social. Now they're playing each other's space a lot, but they cooperate a lot, right? Amazon is the number 2 seller of Google Assistant. Facebook and Amazon work with Google on Android. Amazon sells a boatload of Android phones. And they all have these massive partner ecosystems. So they don't see themselves as an entity. They see themselves as a kind of a hub of facilitating and bringing the best to the customer. They compete all over the place, right? 2 of the 3 have web services businesses, all battling over voice. The Amazon Media Group, if you don't know what it is basically trying to disrupt Google and Facebook by using its consumer sales to target ads, to generate new sales, and to precisely measure sales lift. They are now one of the top 5 ad buyers on Google and Facebook. So they compete and they cooperate. And the last is they are masters of big data and analytics. There's no way around it. All 3 use data analytics and sophistication to accelerate their value to consumers, to their partners, and to their core processes. They don't excel at data for insights for anybody who's been on any of their platforms. They excel at the application of those technologies to the actual points in their business that drive differentiation for consumers and derive benefit in their processes. Data is a scale game. And that's one of the things you learn from these ecosystems. The marginal value of the next piece of data makes the base data more valuable. That's how the data business works, and that's why these companies have built so much success with so much scale. Let me recap with what I believe are the characteristics of these companies. 1, they are disruptive by nature. Disruptive companies driving change. They are customer-centric, they operate with pace, they take risk, they cooperate, they compete, and they collaborate, and they are the masters of big data. So with that out there, the question is, what role do we play as an industry, as a group of insight professionals, as IRI, in this disruptive world of big data and speed and all that? And I believe our role should be as the disruptors ourselves. We need to disrupt our own industry. We need to be the people that introduce disruptive change in our companies, in our industry, in our teams, and in ourselves. If any group of people are going to lead the change in our own companies to the characteristics we just described, it is us. We are the ones that are the resident of the knowledge, the skills, and the capabilities and the access to change our corporations. And the only way we're going to do it is to change our own industry. We have to change how we think about insights and data and information and analytics. We need to become the masters of big data. We need to disrupt ourselves. We need to ultimately move from being the people who opine on the behaviors of the past to the people who create the opportunities of the future. We need to move from just super precise, high-quality insights to that plus institutionalizing information into to the people in the companies that we work at that make the decisions. Let's rally around 90% of what they need at 1,000% the speed. Imagine if we could take the decades of insights and analytics and make them available to the decision makers and companies in real time. So my view is this is the moment in this industry where we need to move from the people who support those that lead to the people who lead, from people who report to people who drive. And I went through this with one of our clients a couple months ago as I was thinking about this. And so they were in our office, and I asked, how many people do you have in your insight function? And the answer was 100. And I said, how many people in your company? And the answer was 10,000. So I asked him, what is the role of the 100 people? Is it to do the reports and analysis and insights for the other 9,900, or to institutionalize the use of all this capability so that they can make better and faster decisions themselves? Now, thank gosh, right? They said the latter, so that was good. No, I've talked to a number of you in the room already over the last months about this concept, and I generally get a sense that it's what others are thinking about. But imagine the impact if we could disrupt all of our companies and move the locus of the use of sophisticated insights and analytics out into organizations. As with anything that's disruptive, it comes with some very big questions. Is this a good idea? Is probably the first question. Like, is it feasible? Do we have the courage to do it? Because each time I've presented this, for a while, people were all, I'm not going to ask the question, but many of you are churning, going, well, what is the implication for my role, my function? And I would argue, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but that we don't really have a choice. We have to move from an industry that produces information to an industry that produces change. And I love a quote from Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, who says, if you don't jump on the new, you don't survive. So we definitely have the ability and the tools. So the question is, do we have the courage? So I don't think we should fear it. I think we should see it as an incredible opportunity. And if you leave with one thought from this conversation, is that now is the time for us, this group, 1,600 people. You know, we operate in an industry with a couple 100,000 people. Imagine if those couple 100,000 people decided to disrupt our own industry, to move from just doing complicated analytics to doing complicated analytics, but teaching the other 6 million or 8 million people or 20 million people in our industry how to use data and analytics to drive business performance at a faster pace. So I said I would talk a little bit about IRI, and I'm going to talk a little bit about us, about how we can be helpful in that, but mostly just describe what we think. We hope that we've been the disruptors in our industry. We're doing our best. One of my colleagues called me the chief chaos officer the other week. So we're doing our best. We're going to operate at the edge of chaos. We are going to be the disruptors. In the last 4 years, we made a series of bets. The first one is we bet on ecosystem. We ultimately said that we would be better if we brought you the best solutions that would possibly be available to you. We call it a best-of-breed partner ecosystem. It requires us to be customer-centric, right? We need to bring you the best. If I don't have it, I bring it to you. We collaborate and compete. You will see in this room a number of companies that my team would consider to be a competitor. I'm not going to name their names. No, not too much free advertising. But, and I got a lot of flack for that. And I said, look, if we're going to be customer-centric, if we're going to be the destination in the industry for the leaders in CPG, retail, and media, then we're going to have to bring the best to bear on them. Technology. We made a big bet 4 years ago on our technology. Those who were here, it was everything mobile. If you remember, I brought up a phone and said, when was the last time you printed out Google? Why do I have to run a report, print it out, copy it, and email it? Everything needed to be in real time, visualization, most sophistication. 4 years later, you know, we have the most sophisticated big data platform and analytics solution in the world. We do. Most sophisticated platform in the world. More integrated data sets than any other platform. The ability to mine that data on the fly is better than any other platform. Leading edge visualization. 50+ applications. Connectors, transformers, transistors. Some of the stuff, Ash is in the front here. I only know about 3/4 of what he says. But it's all really cool. Machine learning data clouds. We have more than 20 innovations here. You know, so we have built, we said we were going to invest in technology to disrupt the industry, and I think we've accomplished that. We said we were going to treat retailers like clients. So 4 years ago, we said we were going to stop seeing our retail partners as just a source of data, and we were going to start to see them as our clients. All in the vein of CPG collaboration. That was the original thesis, that we were going to do it to help create connectivity between retailers and manufacturers, so they could grow their business together. We couldn't have imagined what it evolved to. It's been more successful than we could have ever imagined. It was a bunch of big bets, but we're now effectively, in addition to that, we're largely the platform of choice for large retailers to manage their business. We're the only platform in the world that can provide market share, loyalty, and supply chain solutions, and soon pricing for the thousands of users at our retail partners. The only one who can do market share, loyalty, and supply chain at the leading edge. Media. We had a simple idea that media should be bought based on what you buy, not what you see. So imagine if you could, instead of spending $500,000 on an ad, you could buy $5 million of sales lift. That was the ultimate crazy idea. Why buy an ad? Just buy sales. Leave it to the seller to figure out how to generate the impact. And to do that, we felt like we had to be able to measure the impact of advertising better than anybody else. Fast forward today, my team's had a tremendous opportunity. We have the biggest consumer data cloud. We have the most accurate projected audiences called Pro Scores. We have the only truly verified audiences in the world. We've got the most accurate, granular, high-speed solution for measurement. We're partnered with 3 of the 4 largest agencies in the world, the 4th forthcoming once we can finalize our announcement. We work with 17 of the top 20 CPGs, 3 or 4 of the top 7 retailers, every major publisher, Google, Facebook, Snapchat, and Pinterest, all in 2 years. 2 years. Along the way, we added a 5th dimension, which is around reinventing collaboration and personalization. We hadn't thought of that at the time. We're really focused on those initiatives. And this is our next big bet. So we're not going to ask you to do something that we're not willing to do. Our next bet is we want to change our industry from one that just provides insights to one that provides insights and democratizes action-oriented tools throughout people who work in these companies. And we're going to do it through the tools that we think will do it, but we're also going to move more into kind of figuring out how to create the actual impact. From a tool standpoint, that means we're going to take AI and machine learning and apply it to B2B between CPGs, retailers, and media, because we need to even dramatically improve that opportunity. That's where we play. The tools for your organizations, manufacturers, retailers, and media companies, the tools between the organizations, and then ultimately, and in parallel, apply the necessary technology and capabilities around the personalization world. All with cutting-edge technology and the largest data lake and the ability to provide that data and technology in whatever shape or form you need to deliver the impact in your organization. Someday, we hope to get to the point that we actually are helping consumers make better choices about what they, where and what they buy. That would be the ultimate end of our disruptive chaos. In the end, if we can help consumers make better choices about what they buy, then we'll be able to ultimately help the industry in new and different ways. So we're together, hopefully, those that want to come for the ride, are going to make this bet on AI or machine learning-driven, action-oriented democratization of tools throughout our industry. That's our one-step-ahead vision. Let me close by saying I really think the 1,500 or 1,600 people in this room can become the catalyst for a major disruption in our industry, and I think it's necessary. So thank you very much for coming. I'm going to end where I started. We really appreciate you coming and spending 3 days with us. I had a bunch of fantastic interactions yesterday. The quality of this audience is unbelievable. We're really privileged for you to come, and we're really privileged to spend time with you. And if this group gets excited about something, we can change our industry. And by doing that, we'll change the performance of the companies we work in. Thanks to my team. There's about 300 plus folks from IRI here. They are the disruptors themselves. I appreciate all your hard work. I appreciate you guys living in a world of chaos. All the hard work that goes into this and all the hard work to keep pushing and trying to do great things. And thank you.